I'm Nick Seco from HomeRight Windows and Doors, and we're located in Waynesboro, Pennsylvania. So we do vinyl replacement windows, we do steel and fiberglass entry doors, we do aluminum storm doors, and we do sliding patio doors, all made by Provia. The windows are a vinyl replacement window, and it could be anything from double hungs to casements to bay and bow windows and everything in between. So when somebody calls in the office and needs an estimate, they get Roxanne on the phone typically, and she would schedule an appointment for me to come out and take some measurements, provide some literature, go through what options we have, and then I would follow up within about 24 to 48 hours with an estimate with all the details of the products as well as the installed price. I find that we're typically much more affordable than the companies that you see advertising on TV or in a lot of other places. If they're spending a lot of advertising dollars, obviously they're passing those costs on to their consumers. You could go to our website at homerightwaynesboro.com, or you could call us at 717-749-4874.
Local and live, covering Franklin and Washington counties, it's Let's Talk TriState.
Welcome to Let's Talk TriState, all powered by HomeRight Windows and Doors in Waynesboro, the right choice online at homerightwaynesboro.com. Here we have joining us on Let's Talk TriState today, a local author. This has been many years in the making, our dear friend Lee Adams. Lee, how are you? Good to see you.
Thank you. It's good to see you.
This is such a treat for me. I've known about this and been keeping it quiet for quite a while now. And the cat's out of the bag.
Yes.
Coming up on June 17th, it is a big day for you.
Yes.
A lot of years in the making. Before we get there, okay, before we get to the release of your novel, which everyone can see here and on the screen behind us, and it is called Love on Tour, so you can order it right now. All the links, all the info at leeadamsbooks.com. The link is right there on your screen for you. So take us through the history of Lee Adams. Where'd you grow up? How'd you wind up doing what you're doing today? Because lots of folks may not know as they're looking at it, or may have researched a little bit before clicking play, the correlation between the topic of your book and where you are professionally. So take us through that.
Well, I was born and raised on the outskirts of Baltimore, Maryland, a little town called Joppatown. Mm-hmm. But I was kind of co-raised more or less in this area because my parents got a cabin up in Fayetteville, Pennsylvania when I was 8 years old. And we split our time between the two. So summers were spent up in Fayetteville and going to the Caledonia Pool and Laurel Lake and all of that area. And then during school, I was on the outskirts of Joppatown. And then when I graduated high school, I went to college at Shippensburg University. So it tied me in even more to the area. And then I ended up settling here. Wow. But to tie in my career in the book, I discovered country music when I was about 12 or 13 years old, fell in love with Willie Nelson. I was an avid reader. I was a lover of country music. Yeah. I decided I was going to be a disc jockey because I could meet Willie Nelson. If I got into radio, it made sense to me. And I went to Shippensburg. It did. I got to meet him finally. And I went to Shippensburg, got a degree in radio, television, communication. Started working in Chambersburg, actually, and the area. Yeah. And then I switched into record promotion about 30 years ago.
Yeah, I can't believe it. Yeah. All my time knowing Lee has been spent working here at our sister station, WAYZ, and I had no idea. I think I had known you for maybe 2 or 3 years before I realized that before it came out that you have roots here that I would have never even thought. Because, and correct me if I'm wrong, while staying in your home area is it perhaps a goal or a benefit if you can get it in record promotion. Yeah. By and large, you're kind of at the whim of the record labels. Look, if you want this job, we need someone to be here, so then you go there, right?
Right. And back when I started in it, due to the fact that air travel was so expensive back then, and they wanted the regional promoters to be in the region they were working. Mm-hmm. So a lot of us either worked out of a corporate distribution office, which they had one in DC, but they didn't have one in central PA, or they worked out of their homes. Right. So when I started, I worked out of the house, and of course I had nothing but a landline telephone and a fax machine. Right, so I went from radio and all of this to sitting in my living room going, what have I done? Mm-hmm. But I had the ability to work out of the house. When I was promoted to vice president of the promotions team, I was very direct about the fact that I would do the job, but I would not move. And I did have an apartment in Nashville for 2 years, and I commuted. But my family is all in this area. My husband owns a business in this area. His family's all in this area, and families always come first for me. And I wanted to stay close to my family. And I'm very lucky that my company has let me do that.
Yeah, great company, and just, I mean, they know when they have something good. In your case, they have a great employee, great vice president in you. So we're honored to have you. Just,
Thank you.
You know, when it comes to that as part of the WAYZ, the Verstandig family, an extension of that. But now let's talk about this book.
Yes.
It is called Love on Tour.
Yes.
You can see that we have a copy. This is, you can pre-order this now, but you can't get it. Lee was nice enough to bring us a couple copies here. But first of all, I love the look of the cover.
Thank you.
Just based on cover appeal, it tells a story in and of itself. It's very Nashvilleian, so to speak.
Yes.
It has that vibe to it. So take us through Love on Tour. What was the genesis of this book? It was not something that came along last year. It was just, you know, this has been a work in progress.
It has been. I actually wrote the first version of it almost 10 years ago. Okay. And I really wanted to focus on people behind the scenes. I wanted to focus on what radio does to help artists get hits. I wanted to focus on song pluggers and publishers and songwriters and tour managers. A big part of it is about the tour manager, because as you know, if I don't have a good tour manager and somebody shows up at the box office and their tickets aren't there and the meet and greet passes aren't there, if I don't have a good tour manager, we're all stuck.
Yeah.
A good tour manager understands that a mistake happened, we have to take care of you, and we have to take care of your programmers and your partners. And tour managers are everything to a record promoter when you're out on the road. And there are those who treat you like a part of the tour, and those who luckily are very, very, very few and far between, but treat you like an annoyance they have to deal with. I've been very fortunate to mainly deal with those who treat us like we're a part of the tour. They respect what we do, they respect what you do, and they take great care of us, and I kind of wanted to honor them.
I think based on what you said, now I have not had a chance to preview the book, although as soon as we're finished recording, I'm going to just dive into it today. But I think what excites me the most from what you just described is a lot of us, especially when you get into radio, you hear all these terms, these titles as you go along. And like, I'm sure at some point along the way, you have said to me, okay, Tiny, well, you know, I have to see what XYZ promoter says. And then it becomes, well, I have to check with the tour manager or insert title here, right? And we hear those titles, and now even more with the internet just being everywhere, information accessible, it's still kind of difficult to really dial in on what these people do.
Yes.
What is their piece of the puzzle? But we're interested in it. We have American Idol, where they're getting a record label, they're getting a deal. They actually use terms in American Idol that for a long time were just kind of behind the scenes. No one would have thought anybody would be interested in those titles. And now everyone wants to know everything about everything. So I think at the basics too, what excites me is it almost sounds like a textbook in a way of just this glossary of terms that you're going to expound on in a story form, which really is exciting to me.
And over the many, many editors who edited this book to make my very, very raw talent, I did not study writing in school, I studied broadcasting, into what the book became, they said people are interested in these positions and what people do, and don't be afraid to not textbook it, but give more information on it. And that was something that, because I do it for a living, I assumed it, and I did have to dive into that a little bit more.
Well, I also think you may not even realize the wealth of knowledge that you are. You know, I think everyone who is good / great at their job, you qualify for both. I think anyone who meets that criteria, and especially having as much time in it as you have had, you don't even realize the encyclopedia that you have, right? Like you just said, these answers just roll off your tongue, boom, 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 boom. You can say this. You wouldn't think anybody's interested in it. But textbook was the wrong word. You contextualize and put into story form what many of us would just be so interested to live a day in the life of, like, for instance, XYZ artist, right? Oh my goodness, I would love to see them on tour. Well, Lee has seen every inner working, not just from the tour, but you've seen everything from the artist coming on to, I've seen pictures of you at artist signings when they've signed their very first major record deal, which I'm sure is just insanely exciting. And I'm sure that's covered in the book as well.
Yeah, I really wanted to also focus on the fact that even though you can find so much on the internet, I mean, back when I was getting into the industry, radio was the only thing I knew that connected me, the average person, to the music industry. Yes. I didn't even know this whole Nashville record label thing existed. That wasn't something I could just Google. At best, I could have looked in an encyclopedia. I mean, it was just back then. Today you can, but even when I speak at colleges and schools, people still come up to me and say, I don't really know. I'm interested in this, but I don't know that this exists. Right. And there's a job for everything, from a social media person to just so much. But the song plugger that I talk about, people don't realize that the songwriting community in Nashville has to have a way to get those songs to the artist.
Sure.
And they need that bridge. So just like I bring the song from the label to you, I'm that bridge between you and the record label. They have song pluggers who are the bridge between the song and the songwriter, and the producer or the A&R person are directly to the artist. And I love that. I think that's an amazing job. And the fact that these people can hear a raw song and go, that should be Luke Bryan or Lainey Wilson or Jason Aldean or Luke Combs or Morgan Wallen or whoever they hear it for. And they can hear that, and then they start figuring out how to get it to that person. So I just wanted to take people who don't usually get the adoration and give them some. And of course, I also have a male recording artist in it, and he's a very, very prominent role. So you couldn't exactly have a book about the music industry and not have a singer.
Absolutely. So the premise of the book is following an up-and-comer? Is that correct? So what is the premise of the book, just from a mini plot system going forward? What do we got?
It really follows Christine Matthews, who is the song plugger, and due to a broken shoe and a rushing to get in the doors to an award show, she ends up befriending an artist who, she was actually the song plugger who had found him his last #1. So they had a little bit of knowledge of who each other was, but not a lot. Because as you know, we can oftentimes have an impact on an artist's career and barely even know who they are. I mean, you have probably played songs on the radio and helped people get #1 songs that you've met briefly, if at all. And then others you've become great friends with. And you don't know which it's going to be. So she has a minimal knowledge of this guy. She actually pitched him his last song. It became a big hit. He finds her sprawled out on the street. She's missed the doors closing. His guest couldn't make the show, so he invites her to be his guest at the award show. So now she's gone from being in the bleachers to being,
front and center, essentially.
Exactly. And her face is, on screens and it's on TV, and which brings about a whole other host of problems, because those of us who work behind the scenes aren't used to being on television and having our face on the screen. And that opened her up to online bullying. People who, why is she his date? She's not pretty enough. She's not this enough. She's not that enough. But their relationship just grew. And there's a bit of a love triangle in there, because then you bring in the tour manager. And I love tour managers because of how much they help me. I love my artists. My tour managers are my rocks when I'm out on the road. So there's a bit of that as well. And there's some great friendships of other people behind the scenes. And it's just really a book about those people who work to make the star the star.
It sounds to me like this is a love story to the behind the scenes of, we'll say country music.
It is.
It is your love story to that. It almost, in a way, seems autobiographical. To an extent.
Yes, absolutely.
You've at the very least, you've witnessed these things or firsthand knowledge of the inner workings.
Yes.
And I think that any time anyone can take what they love and they're passionate about, which you are, and it just has shown for years. I wish people could get into my mind and yours as well, and what you can a little bit in the book, and know the passion that you have for what you do. It is so just raw, and you wear it on your sleeve, but you do it in the most professional manner.
Thank you.
I'm sure that's just going to ooze out of the book.
I hope so. It's funny because my love of reading and my love of country music, it's such a young age. And my mom always wrote. So I actually wrote my first book about a teenage girl in a country band when I was 12.
Okay.
I wish I could find that book. So this has been decades and decades and decades in the making to get this book out.
Yeah.
And I focused so much on my career and my artists and promoting them. And I didn't think I'd still be doing this at this age because it really is a young man's game, as they say.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of energy. I'm on the road all the time. I'm hauling suitcases. I'm checking into hotels, going off no sleep, running through venues. So it's really a young person's game. So I got to the point where, with my recent birthday, I either had to make a decision to just do this now while still working or not do it at all.
Yeah.
And luckily my bosses, my artists, everybody were uber supportive about it. They have been phenomenal about it.
Yep.
And everybody said, do it, we support you.
I think the best thing that you may be looking at this and saying, well, that all sounds great, and I'd love to learn about, Christine and her story, but, convince me more about Lee. Let me just put it this way. If you're looking for someone who I can say validates everything that is in this book, the behind the scenes, the inner workings, Lee talked about having been in the record industry for about 30 years. Is that correct?
Well, the record promotion, I was in radio for 10 years before that.
Okay.
Yeah.
The label that Lee currently works for was the label that no one thought was going to succeed. They had one artist. They promoted that artist like crazy. That artist took off to superstardom. And then what winds up happening is now one of the top 3 labels. In all, some of the art, if I were to name the artists, if you were to name them, you wouldn't believe, but these artists have had that way paved for them because of things that Lee and those like her have done. And that's a testament. That's a ground up. So this is a book that you want to read if you're like me and you love the behind the scenes of anything you're passionate about, and I do. I love radio, but I found in almost 30 years of doing radio that I'm loving more and more the behind the scenes.
Yes.
How can I produce that to make it sound better? What can we do? How can I make this next generation of young folks coming into radio better? Because I want it's not about me. It's not about the singular. I want the industry to continue, the local mom and pop radio stations, which is what we're blessed to have.
Absolutely.
And I think
very blessed to have it.
Oh yeah, and I think the same way with you is this is almost a passing of your knowledge as well.
Yeah.
And who can do that with a novel? But Lee Adams, for crying out loud.
Well, it's funny you say that about starting a Broken Bow because it makes me sound extremely brilliant, which I appreciate. But what led me to this fledgling little label that nobody thought was going to do anything is multiple labels consolidating, cutting my division, and causing job losses.
Sure.
And when I speak to kids in college, I tell them, you're going to get knocked down and you're going to have to get up again, like that song.
Yep.
And then you're going to get knocked down again and you're going to have to get up again. And it's the people that just keep getting up.
Yep.
And quite honestly, I didn't really want to go work for this little fledgling label, but the other regional who was let go with me and one of our artists decided we wanted to stay together, and the only label that would take us was this little fledgling label. Yeah. And there was one record promoter, we talked about this recently, because everybody else said, don't take that job, it'll ruin your career. There was one record promoter who said, take that job. Don't sign a contract, but it's a paycheck. Nobody will deny you a paycheck. Work hard, do your job, and when an opening comes up somewhere better, you can apply for that and probably get it. But then, like you said, things kind of started taking off at our little label. Yeah. And it became the little engine that could. And now I always say the freight train that should.
Like, you're not kidding.
So it really, but it's been over the span of what I've been there since 2001. So it's been 24 years.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
And as with everything, ebbs and flows, highs and lows, and the ups and downs. And this book, I think, is going to take the readers on that journey. So, Lee, let's talk about how folks can get the book. I know it's available for pre-order now, but take us through that.
It is available for pre-order now. That's probably the best way to get it anymore is, online. Sure. Although some local bookstores, I have talked to them about carrying it in this area, and there's one down in Chambersburg, there's one in Waynesboro, Boonesboro. They've got the lovely Turn the Page.
Sure.
So some local bookstores, maybe some local businesses, but it's going to be online everywhere. It's being distributed through Simon & Schuster. So you can go to them and they can link you. You can go to my webpage and they can link you. You can find everything on Amazon.
Absolutely. And then you have a book signing coming up?
I do.
Tell us about that, if you're okay with saying about that now.
Absolutely. That is going to be on June 20th at Turn the Page in Boonesboro from 4 to 8.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
And I'm very excited about that because I'm local.
Yes.
And I like doing things that are local. Like you, I did local radio. And my husband owns a local business here. Just so much about supporting local. So I love that people can buy it online, but I also welcome people to always support their local bookstores.
And they'll have copies there for sale that night.
Yes.
You can stop by, you can meet Lee. I encourage you to do that 4 until 8, June 20th, Turn the Page, right here in Boonesboro. It is not often that we have a local author that comes through, and certainly Lee now qualifies. So first of all, congratulations, Lee. So happy for you. And my goodness, Love on Tour. It is available June 17th. This date has come, you said this to be about a year ago. And I cannot believe that here we are,
I know.
a month away, less than a month away from your big book signing and essentially the local unveiling of this book. Wow,
it's like
crazy.
the unraveling of yarn. The closer it's gotten, the faster it seems to have gone. And now I've got all these things running through my head that I need to do, including this, which I can't tell you how much I appreciate
it's our pleasure.
this time, being able to talk to local people, because one thing that I really hear when I talk to schools, and I recently talked to a high school in this area, I spoke to Shippensburg not too long ago, they're like, but you live local, how do you get to work with these big country stars? Like, don't underestimate what your local professors and teachers have connections to that can help you. Whether it's in sports, whether it's in medicine, whether it's in entertainment, whether it's in radio, whatever it is, don't underestimate what you can do right in your own backyard.
Yeah, I remember when I first started in radio, one of my goals at the time was to be a tour manager. It didn't take me long to realize that I like home.
Living on the road is a tough job.
It's
a tough life.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
But if you want to find out all about that, about life on the road, life as an artist, from everything from the highs to the lows, the beginnings, the ends, and everything in between, you can see that and read that right now. Well, not right now, but coming up on June 17th. Love on Tour is the title of the book, and we've been so privileged to have my friend and author Lee Adams here talking with us on Let's Talk Tri-State. Lee, I wish you the best, and we will see you on June 20th because we do a live broadcast that night. Okay?
Thank you
good luck
so
to you,
much.
Thank you.
I appreciate this.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for joining us on Let's Talk Tri-State.
Let's talk Tri-State.
If you'd like to be featured on an upcoming episode of Let's Talk Tri-State, call 717-597-9200 or email letstalk@921thegoat.com.